Well, it's good to see so many known and less known EOers. Welcome to the hobby of Mike and myself called AI. Mike is a member of EO Vancouver. I'm a member of the Dutch chapter, EO Netherlands. And I'll be serving today as your host. And we're going to talk a bit about how AI can support your sales, which is a very dear topic to me, because I really would like to automate my sales and see if I can get the best out of it. Mark shares this very same thing, and he does that all for like 20 years or so. But Mike, maybe you can introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mike Schwartz. I've been in EO since 2017, but I've been working in tech since 2000. So I graduated from university 1999, went straight into starting .coms. This was the peak of the .com boom when I started, and I was part of the collapse with my first few startups. I had a series of 9 .com startups. The first one was called clubvibes.com, was a nightlife information guide. We were building social network for nightlife before the days of Friendster, before MySpace, definitely before Facebook. And yeah, then I went on to build e-commerce a few years before e-commerce went mainstream. I got into social. The general trend of my 25-year tech career was dabbling with whatever technology was trending 2 or 3 years before it went mainstream. And that a lot of that has to do with my ADHD and always chasing stimulation and what's new and what's trending. And I didn't make a lot of money through that journey because I was always a bit early. I had some brilliant, I've taken multiple companies north of 10 million and was running for $1 billion valuations, thinking I was Mark Zuckerberg at times in my career. And I always just was a little bit too early to the market. But that's what I enjoy doing. I just love absorbing information and being on the cutting edge of whatever is happening with tech for 25 years now.
You're now running a company called MyZone.
Yeah, so MyZone AI, we help SMBs transition to become AI-first organizations. So we have a framework, a proven framework that we've been testing, called the MyZone AI Blueprint. Is a 10-step framework that assesses and establishes KPIs and basically guides people, holds their hand to becoming AI first in everything that they do. The general pain that I think we're all struggling with right now is that this is very overwhelming. It's moving fast. What do I do? Where do I get started? And a lot of people are jumping into big, I would say, flying with AI ideas when they haven't learned how to crawl or walk with it first. So think EOS, but for AI. That's the framework that I've been building. And yeah, that's me.
Well, welcome to the show. A couple of household rules here. So if you want to ask a question, please put them in the chat. Or if you want to ask them in person, that's also possible. Then please raise your hand and unmute yourself and ask the question. So we try to, more or less end this this conversation on top of the hour, but we do have some opportunity to ask a question, do a Q&A with Mike or with the other participants. So to me, it's a open masterclass. And so let's start. Mike, why does AI in sales matter?
I mean, AI matters for everything right now. And it's sales. It's the same thing, is that a sales rep who is fully AI enabled can 10x the output of somebody who's not. So it's all about efficiency, performance. And I also think it's about preparing for what comes next, because in order to be a 10x, to automate 90% of sales and 10x yourself is possible today. But in order to get there, you need to prepare your data, your systems, your thinking, your documentation. There's a lot of things that you need to learn, because what comes next is 100x. So getting to the 10x now is important because it forces you to prepare and learn all of the things that you need for what comes next, which is even bigger. But I say in some of my talks, this isn't getting a 20-30% advantage, jumping onto a CRM versus people that are working off of email and spreadsheets. The AI first sales rep that is crushing everything will destroy anybody who's not. And it's a matter of months, or like 1 or 2 years, if you're not doing this, you're obsolete as a sales rep, in my opinion.
So we named this masterclass 10 how to 10x your sales, but wouldn't it be just fair to start with just try to double it and make baby steps, incremental steps until we can 10x it? Or should we go do a moonshot increase of our sales and do it by 10 by using the right AI tools?
I think it's an incremental process in all aspects of professional services, including sales, marketing, software development. It's usually like first 20%, 50%, 1x, 2x, 3x, not jumping straight into 10. I don't think there is a magic bullet for that. I do think it's a bit of a journey. And we had a lot of hands go up earlier, people that are very obsessed with AI. And I think you'll know that the deeper you wade into this topic, the bigger you'll realize it is. There's a lot of learning steps along the way. So no, I don't think there's not a quick, easy solution for this, in my opinion.
So it's incremental steps and just start. So why aren't companies not starting yet with automating or using AI to increase their sales?
I think they are. I mean, just show of hands, how many of you are already using AI to improve your sales efficiency? Raise your hands. For me, it seems very common. But when I meet with them and drill down and start asking questions, they're usually focusing, most people are on automated lead generation, like automated drip email outreach. And that's those of you where that's 90% of what you consider AI for sales is automating the email messaging or the LinkedIn communications or something like that. Raise your hands. That's a pretty common starting point for people. But there's so much more.
Yeah. But that's still AI. It's just automation.
Well, it's AI if we use AI to personalize one-to-one the outreach and to enrich the outreach process. So I've got a list here of what I consider full sales automation. That's lead generation, lead qualification, lead enrichment, quotation and proposal automation, speeding up the calls. So like a call like this, taking transcription to action. So transcription to email summaries, to tasks, or to updating your CRM based on transcripts, to wearing the pendants and doing that real time in in-person meetings, sales training, and even like role playing, recruiting, and dynamic learning for your sales team.
So start at the beginning.
Yeah, lead
For instance, with how do you start with the lead generation? I think that's the first and foremost basic step to start with. Well, starting with sales.
Yeah, I'll go through a few common starting points there. So, AI is really good at analyzing your industry and looking for sales opportunities that you might not have thought of. So, at the highest level of strategy, you might think you know what your ICP is, your ideal customer profile, who you're targeting, and you might have all sorts of assumptions that you've been going with. But AI is incredible at going out doing deep research on your competitors and saying, looking at who you're targeting and who are all of your competitors targeting, and are there opportunities that I might have missed? That's the first thing, is people usually have a couple blind spots. They're tunneled in somewhere. So the best way that I would do that is just running deep research agents. And you can run those agentically in the background using automations like make.com, N8N, other tools like that. So having sales intelligence that feeds you so that you're making the right strategic decisions about who you're targeting to generate your leads from, I think is important. So I would recommend anybody in sales has agents that are analyzing everything your competition is doing. If they write a blog article, if they make a social media post, if they hire a new director of anything, like, you want to know and compile that data. So building a knowledge base on everything that your competition is doing is one tool for that not a lot of people are doing. But and then you can have AI analyze what your current strategies are, compare them to what your competitors are doing, and say, like, are there any blind spots or some new opportunities that I might be missing?
Yeah. But you're already talking about agents. I think we should first start with the first step is defining the customer, and you can use all kinds of tools for that, and do research with the tools available. So Perplexity and also Google or OpenAI, you can use those and create these personas and take it from there.
Yeah, and you can do all these things directly within these frontier models like ChatGPT or Gemini, Claude, Perplexity. But what I was talking about there with agents is like if you build them in N8N and you can have them run on a cycle like every 30 days. I want you to go out and do these things, come back, compile this data, put it into this Google Drive folder. Then you can have another agent that runs on a schedule. After you've compiled that from your top 5 competitors, it goes back and analyzes that, compares that to your existing sales strategy, and then looks for opportunities and then updates that in the Slack channel. That's something that you can sort of agentically do with N8N or make.com that kind of raises the bar.
And what kind of solutions do you use for, so N8N is the overarching, well, manager of the agents. What kind of tools do you use in this first phase?
Yeah, so let's first of all define agent. So it's an evolving term, and most people are using it incorrectly. So true AI agents, you give them a broad objective, and they set their own scaffolding and go off and come back until they work until they accomplish that objective. You know, write me a piece of software that accomplishes X, and they come back in 2 hours and it's done. That's a true agent. Or deep research is a type of agent where you say, here's my objective, go out and just keep researching and then compile this report, and it thinks and comes back. Once you get into the N8N and make.coms of the world, or the newer versions of Zapier, they're not truly agents. They're building workflow automation that taps into AI. Everyone's calling them agents, and for the sake of it, I'll also call them agents. But they have scaffolding, they have rules. So it's a combination of old school robotic process automation infused with intelligence. They're quote agents, but not in the technical term of AI. Are they truly agents? But everyone calls them agents, so we're going to call them agents as well. So I'd say 98% of people that I meet with are just working with the tools, with ChatGPT, with Perplexity. They're using the tools. The big unlock is once you find something that you have found success with in sales using ChatGPT, start to think like, ooh, if I could automate this and connect it with that and then automate it, and then, that's where we start to build these sales agents that perform a wider range of agentic functions or workflow automation. So that's just a little example at the beginning, is getting your insight. Most of us don't do strategy, don't dig into our competitors, don't analyze the industry, don't look for trending new topics and products. And we tend to think we know what's going on, and we sell the same way to the same people that we usually have. And occasionally we might step back and try to look for new verticals. So if you have agents just working away in the background, looking for these new opportunities, like, ooh, this fidget spinner thing is trending in Asia and we expect it's going to hit here in the next 3 months. You might want to develop a sales strategy for this market segment. It's like, I didn't even think about that because I've been so busy selling to I've always been selling to. AI is really good at analyzing these broader trends and finding those opportunities. And you can run that stuff agentically in the background quite easily. So you have like a senior sales market industry strategist looking out for you while you focus on what you've always been doing. So that's like starting at the highest level of strategy. That's one point I wanted to make.
So that was what I was about to say. So you have this huge lake of potential clients, but at the end of the day, we do business with people. How can I, so I make my sales, I wrote my sales strategy. How can I make the next step? That's basically identifying potential customers at scale, because if I got 100 or 20 customers, then I know them by heart. But if you want to do it at scale, that's something different.
Well, another thing that I think adds to what you're talking about there, forgive me, I think I understood 80% of that question. Like having AI analyze what you're already doing within your CRM, where you're seeing success, the leads that are closing. And this, I'm going to skip forward to lead enrichment. Well, I'm going to cover the CRM part after we enrich, because with lead enrichment, the more data you collect on your leads and your customers by having agents go out and get hundreds of data points on customers where you might have just had their name, their email, their company, their website. If you can know the number of employees, their core values, what they're posting on social media, all their products and services, how many, their revenues, are they public, are they private? The list goes on. If you have all of that data enriched automatically when it comes in for your existing customers and for your leads, then you can now have AI do deep research on your CRM and come back and say, okay, so you've got one that's looking outward, right? Strategically. Then you have another AI that's looking inward within your CRM. Where are you having the highest success? Where are you getting the highest closing rates? Where are you getting the best lifetime value, the best retention rates, right? And when we're talking about AI looking and analyzing your CRM for opportunities and trends, you combine that intelligence with your outward intelligence, and then now you have an AI strategist on your shoulder. Phenomenal. But it can also be a sales auditor looking for mistakes. I don't know about you, but I would close a heck of a lot more deals if I remembered to follow up with people, right? So you can have an agent that simply scans your CRM on a daily basis, looking for opportunities that you've missed, things that you were supposed to follow up on that you didn't, or even letting you know, like, this is a great opportunity. This is really high value. You should prioritize this differently than you currently are.
Don't the current CRM systems provide these functionalities?
Some of them do, a lot of them don't. It really depends on what plan and what package that you're on. So, uh, for example, you could be on a lightweight version of a package that doesn't have marketing automation built into it, and it's not included. But if you have API access to your CRM, you can build these things quite easily. That brings up the question of build versus buy. I've seen many situations where, say, I'll give an example. It's not sales, but it's related. I had a client that just recently progressed over to NetSuite. And on their previous financial platform, they had automation of scanning invoices and putting them into their ledger automatically. But that wasn't included with NetSuite. But because we had API access to NetSuite, we were able to build a quick agent that did that for them and saved them $1,200 a month in NetSuite licensing fees. So things have changed. If you asked me 2 years ago, build versus buy, I'm like, are you crazy? Just buy. But the cost of building things has dropped 10x in the last 12 months. So suddenly things that you thought you might need to buy as a license upgrade within your HubSpot or your Salesforce, suddenly it's like, you know what? I can build this for $500 with N8N and just plug into the API. So that's
As long
another.
as there's an API available.
And even sometimes we don't even need the API because we can just emulate a human come in the front of the tool through a web browser as an actual agent, get the data that we need and interact as a fake human. So tools that we have that say go out to LinkedIn and chat people up and send messages, we're not using the LinkedIn API. We're violating the LinkedIn terms of services. We're acting like a human and we're coming in the front, even though we don't have API access. So even if you don't have API access to the whatever CRM you're in, there's often ways, unless they blocked it, to come in the front if you just act as a human.
Yeah. Now about scraping data from, or enriching data by scraping data from LinkedIn or Facebook or other social media. What's your opinion on this?
Yeah, I think it's super important. Now let's talk about. So we talked about one of the first steps is like AI for strategy. What's happening in my market? What's happening in my industry? What's trending? What's changing? What's happening within my CRM? And having AI analyze all of that and give you recommendations and advice at the absolute highest level. From there, we get, into the more common starting points, which is, using tools like Apollo to have drip email going out or Dripify to be chatting people up on LinkedIn. You take all your knowledge and your ICPs, you build really targeted segments. You enrich that data using tools like Clay AI or Nielsen IQ, where there's a whole bunch of these enrichment services that will take the data of your target ICP. Say you're targeting accounting firms in Canada. Well, then you can go and get that data, but then you can have AI add a whole bunch of enriched data to it. And with that enriched data, then you can get into hyper-personalized communication. Now, most people that are doing hyper-personalized communication are doing it poorly. Show of hands, how many of you get at least a couple emails per day from people that are trying to do this? And you're like, this is so obviously AI, leave me alone. Right? It's embarrassing. Like, hey, Mike, I see that, you've been working with Plastic Bank on blah. And I read it. I'm like, fake. You have to read it and believe that someone took the time to do it. Most people are overdoing it with the personalization and they're still writing too long. And when you're talking to CEOs, it's got to be really short. So one of the examples of enrichment that worked really well for me that broke through that clutter was a plastic surgeon that was selling post-surgical bras to other plastic surgeons. And the enrichment that we did, we just looked for common connections on LinkedIn. And then we said, hey, Dr. So-and-so, I've been working with, and then we found the people that we were already working with that were in common on LinkedIn. I've been working with so-and-so and this doctor and thought it would be great to connect with you. Are you free for a quick chat? Adeline. And it blew up. She actually shut the program down because her calendar was filled for the next month because they thought that she had taken the time to really get to know them. And it sounded almost like there was referral from people they knew, but they weren't sure. And so they reached out. And it's not this big sales promotional type of thing. And so A/B testing those messages with the personalization is key. Sometimes we have to try 10 times. And when it works, you'll know because your inbox is getting flooded and everyone thinks that you personally wrote the message. So when you enrich the data properly, it helps for these highly personalized one-to-one outreach. But it does something a lot more for your sales team. First of all, it will save them a bunch of time because what does a good sales rep do before they get on a call with a client? Research.
Yeah.
Automate the research. Give them a brief, everything you need to know in advance. Even give them sales tips. Say, based on their core values, you should mention this core value of ours because it aligns with that. And we know that they just hired this person and have this specific goal. So that it can coach them, not just say how many employees they have, where they're based, and what the CEO likes to eat for breakfast based on the social media feed. That's nice to have, but it can actually go in and coach them and suggest about products and approaches and angles and personality type. And you could even say things, we think the person you're talking to has this personality type. So you're going to want to spend the first 10 minutes of your call getting to know them and building a relationship and not jumping too fast into the data. That's what enrichment can do.
What I like about it,
That's one of the many things that enrichment can do.
what I really like about this is it amplifies storytelling. It amplifies storytelling in your sales pitches. It gives you the data to create a compelling story that's believable and that people accept and they can understand. Now, when you're
Absolutely.
frantic about privacy and ethical gathering of data, what's your take on that? You got the GDPR here in Europe. Well, in Europe, and I think a lot of legislation in other parts of the world is, well, to make an understatement, slightly different.
One of my business teachers out at UBC told me once that ethics was not the business of business. Is that true? But no, I think that most of the data all of the data I'm talking about here is just publicly available information that we're compiling. So it's already out there on the web. I don't see any ethical considerations there. There might be something like when you trick people and they think that you're actually sending them a real message and it's been sent by an agent, there might be some ethical disclosure saying this was sent by my agent, but no one's doing that. I don't really see
No, it's
any.
the gathering of the information, the data enrichment.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot of experience looking at the ethics of data enrichment. I'm probably
Don't know, it's also an answer.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I compile and collect and store this data securely. And, the way we do it here is if we're reaching out to people one-on-one, just respect, if they reply, we terminate the automation and a real human takes over. If they say, leave me alone, it automatically stops talking to them. We hold and maintain an unsubscribe list. Any communication, we have a link at the bottom where they can unsubscribe. Thing is, this what I'm talking about here applies to those of you that are doing sort of B2B sales. This is not the same as e-commerce. And when you're reaching out to people one-on-one, very carefully, very tactfully, you don't need to do this at high volume. And it's really no different than if you were to do this manually yourself and just do a bunch of research and, so.
So it's also common sense. I think
Yeah.
that's, so look at yourself. When will you be offended yourself? And just think and don't take everything for granted. I got a question, by the way. What tool did you use to recommend to enrich data and use LinkedIn for outreach? Lindy AI?
I haven't used Lindy. I've heard good things about it. I've tested out Ask Alfred. Then we had some issues with Ask Alfred. They were getting suspended by LinkedIn. Then we moved over to Dripify, and Dripify has been working great.
Any other suggestions?
Dripify, yeah, I've only used those two, Ask Alfred, and then we moved to Dripify. And Dripify has met our objectives, and it was pretty cheap, and we're happy with it. So we haven't had to dig deeper than that. But we kind of, with our automated outbound, which is a small part of the overall sales. So I don't want to spend too much time there because there's so much more exciting. And I think most people are kind of already doing these things. But Apollo is really common, Zoom Info, but I like Apollo. We combine that together with N8N and Make to do some enrichment. We'll use tools like Clay, or I've got a client who's in he sells ingredients, and so we use Nielsen IQ to go out and get tons of information on prospective clients and match up their ingredients list with his ingredients list. And we found sort of more enterprise tools like Nielsen to be, next level. But if you just go to ChatGPT, do deep research, tell me the top 5 tools for data enrichment, Clay AI, Nielsen IQ, there's a long list there. So in combination with the data providers like Apollo, Zoom Info, plus the enrichments, the Clay and the Nielsen's of the world, and then we connect them with Dripify and a Gmail inbox and an N8N framework, we have it doing a whole bunch of things like going to their profile on LinkedIn and just liking something or leaving a little comment or just visiting their profile so that people who are on the paid versions of LinkedIn can see, oh, they've got someone that's visited your page multiple times, has done a bunch of action. And we want to make it look more human-like when you finally reach out and say, hey, I would love to connect, that it seems more natural. So we're tying all of them together with N8N or Make, and we're using multiple tools for that. And that's predominantly for B2B.
Nice. Next step. I can write the first proposals, multiple. How can I automate my proposals?
Yeah, so I'm going to give you an example of just how far you can go with proposal or quotation automation. This is the most extreme case. And if I can build a custom quotation on a custom home, you can do it for anything. So we started these custom quotation or proposal building actually with a custom furniture manufacturer, an EO member from, I think, Calgary. I don't know if Tova is on the call, but Timeless Furniture. They spend a lot of time and a lot of money getting custom quotes. If you go to their website, just search for Timeless Furniture Calgary. Their tool, I don't believe it's live yet, but the old way of doing it is people would reach out to them on their website and upload a picture and say, I want a couch that looks like this, and this is my budget, these are my goals, and all of this information. They go back and forth between the client and the company. And their situation was actually unique because they couldn't quote until they talked to all of their vendors. And their vendors didn't publish pricing online. It was all custom. What are the cost of these feathers? What are the cost of this mahogany? What are the cost of this stitching? How has that changed? And they would do this. And so for that specific quotation, which was very complex, we had 3 different agents. One that would go back and forth with the customer to collect all the information that we need and make sure we fully understood their needs. Instead of filling out a massive form, it becomes more conversational. And we had an agent that would then understand that, figure out all of the supplies and materials that were needed based on what we received from the customer. And then a supplier agent would talk to all of their vendors and suppliers and figure out the estimated cost, build the proposal, put it up in the cloud, notify them on Slack, your quote for this client is ready, please review it. So there's always a human in the loop stage to review everything that we've done and then explains, we estimated this much for wood, this much for labor, this much for feathers, here's all the information, confirm that. Once they hit confirm, then it would draft the email, attach the proposal. They would, again, check the email one last time, release it from draft mode, and then send it out to the customer. And that's a fairly complex my agency, I've got templates. I can change it myself. I don't need that. But if you're selling something that requires customized pricing, research, talking to suppliers, it can be huge. We did it for custom home building. That one is a 6-month process. Used to take 15 grand in 6 months. We got it down to 57 questions in 10 minutes, including floor plans and mock-ups and visual illustrations. Now you can have the AI is not just create the proposal and the pricing with it like in a one shot. Like you can build sophisticated slide decks. People don't realize that. They think, well, it's going to be a one shot email and a simple PDF attachment. It's like, no, you can create an 80-page PDF where you have one prompt here and a different prompt there. And this one is giving you 5 images to choose from. You can even have on the next generation of these custom proposals that we're working on. Very soon, we're going to have custom video generation embedded with these proposals as well.
What kind of tool do you use for that?
For
Oh, you're about to use for that.
we're about to. I think we'll probably go with, if we're doing, it only makes sense for high volume. If it's not high volume, you just create the video yourself. But something like HeyGen V5 via the API connection, you can do with your AI avatar. You can create a short little, thank you greeting message, a little thing about this proposal, send it, embed that with the email when it goes out and include the attachment, and people just go like, wow. And I think that
in 100 languages.
Yeah.
Well, it seems that the building industry and interior design do have issues. So this little studio is located in a company that specializes in high-end lighting, and they got similar issues. So they get a proposal and like a 90-pager with all kinds of information and potential fixtures and linings, and somehow 20 or 30% of the exact stock keeping units or the numbers are missing. And it's a huge challenge to get every single number right. So they built here an agent that basically crawls the web, finds the stock keeping units, put them in the proposals, and from there it's basically hit on the button to send out a proposal or create a proposal based on latest information. And there's so much information missing, and so they built the agent to find the missing information to put it into their proposals.
Yes, that's another great use case. I would say like having an AI auditor agent that reviews your proposals and agreements and said, all of my agreements need to include these things, and it understands. Because when you have sales reps that go through and start customizing things, and then you have somebody senior has to come back and audit that, and am I on the right template? Is this the newest one? If you can have an agent whose job is to just go through and review that and tell you, like, are you using the right template? Did you cover all your legal basis before you sign off an agreement? This is huge. There was one company we know that works with appliance. They're a big box appliance retailer here in Western Canada. And they sign agreements with large real estate development companies that are building, 1,000 condos and things like that. And every time the agreements that they were signing, unfortunately, because they were the client, they had to bend to the developers, and every developer had a slightly different agreement that they had to sign off on. And they literally had 2 full-time employees. Their job was to go through and say, these are our standardized agreements. This is what we're signing off on. Make sure everything from here is in here. Full-time job. AI, 90% automation of that.
So the money that you can save there is enormous.
Huge. Yeah. If you're doing high volume and I'm fortunate that all of my clients signed my agreements, but if you're in a situation where you're signing agreements that are sent to you from others, that creates an incredible amount of work making sure that those agreements uphold what you need.
So the general terms and the purchasing terms, they need to be a match, or at least 95% there should be a match, and at least it should be visible to everybody where each thing is missing.
Yeah. And one thing I want to talk about for quotations as well is a lot of times when we get into building these automations for people, most people, their first thought is like, what's the ROI on this? How much time am I currently spending on my quotations? They might be like, well, I spend an average of 2 hours per deal. I do 4 deals per month. I might save 8 hours per month, 96 hours. What is that worth? My sales rep time, opportunity cost. Let's throw $100 an hour. This is worth 10 grand a year. If you can automate this 90%, maybe it's worth 9 grand a year. But they're missing out on the unlocks. There's usually some big additional benefit that will come from this automation. For example, I haven't done this yet, but we're very, very close to it. Imagine you're on a sales call. You're talking to the client and you're asking questions, and AI is surfacing dynamic discovery questions, which we haven't talked about. So you're asking all the right powerful questions. In the background, you've got an AI that's analyzing the transcript in real time, building that proposal dynamically for you. And you can get off the call and say, it was great. I can see my AI agent has completed a proposal. I'm just going to review it and I'll send it over to you shortly. Hang tight. You get off the call, and 5 minutes later, it shows up in their inbox. So it's not just about the $9,000 a year in labor cost savings. What happens to your conversion rate when the proposal that used to take 1 or 2 days to arrive shows up in 5 minutes? Or even better, you get to walk through it together live on the call. So when you're looking at the ROI of these things, that's a question I always ask at the end. It's not just the ROI in terms of cost, labor, time savings. It's like, does this unlock something new that could fundamentally change? Like for timeless furniture, everybody else in the industry takes weeks before they will quote on a $20,000 custom couch. If we can get this to a point that they can quote in 10 minutes while you're on a call with a human, they're going to destroy the industry.
Same here for lighting design. Very same thing. So quotes that took for weeks now are, well, less than a day.
Yeah.
So what is your experience in terms of success rate? So this approach versus the old approach. What is more successful? The use of AI and doing this thorough research with the help of AI, or the old-fashioned way of selling? Go out, go in the street and go make sales calls.
Well, the thing that salespeople enjoy the most, I mean, we're not talking about business development reps, people that are doing lead generation, or people that are combing through contracts looking for discrepancies. Those are administrative roles, but the real high value roles that are very hard to replace. And in my agency, you're looking at the only sales rep I have. I spend maybe 20-30% of my time doing sales. I have no sales reps. Why? Because the most valuable piece is the charismatic CEO that cares and can build an authentic connection with your customer. Incredibly hard to replace. Now, if you can automate the 98% around that and just have you or your best, most seasoned salesperson there, I think that's where the value is. Because I see a lot of people like, oh, I need to hire this big sales team. I'm like, do you? Can you not just automate all of this and you stay in that seat for as long as possible? And also, when you hire somebody who's really talented as you are, somebody who's senior, like 6-figure plus wage, that loves closing, think of how much easier it is to get them excited for that role if they get to come in and just close and just do what they do best and not have to touch any of the before and after stuff. Because these are completely different skill sets. One is like, can you chat people up, twinkle on your toes, and dynamically evolve and build authentic relationships? Over here, it's like, how good are you with administrative processes? Like, they're usually conflicting skills.
And at the end of the day, it is all about personal relationships, no matter what.
Yeah, and people think like, well, I often hear this when they start down the journey. Maybe you can mute yourself if you're not speaking. Had a few people not muted. I see Luis, Tom. Do you have a mute all, Robert, on your side?
Yeah, I do, but I have, one sec.
Okay. Somebody is.
Luis Cortez.
Yes. Luis, are you there? I don't have the permission to mute him. We can listen in on his deal.
That's fixed.
All right.
So,
Where was it? Oh, so it's not about, like, a lot of people think, well, if I'm going to go and automate everything with AI, I don't want that. I want to have a real authentic human connection with my customers. There's a lot of backlash too with AI. A lot of people are losing their jobs. I think you're going to see this AI Luddite movement build momentum, where the seamstresses started burning factories in the, whenever that was, 1800s through the Industrial Revolution. We're going to see that now. And if you're not an AI company like me, you got to be careful where you slap AI on things, because people feel like that's lazy. They think it's slop. They think it's taking jobs. People in the creative space think you're stealing IP. There's a lot of negatives that come with it, but it's totally safe and fine to do if it's all happening on the background and people don't know about it. And then you free up your most valuable people to spend more time with your customers, with your employees, with your partners, with your investors. So this should be about making having more time for human connection.
Which brings me to the next section, which is core insights and in particular coaching. One thing that I really like is do simulations, prepare the sales force before they go out and do a bit of Q&A, and sometimes we do a bit of role play. So I'll be the buyer, and the other guy is the sales guy, and we do a little bit of role play. And the objective is to get better salespeople and coach them in how they formulate a sales call and sales pitch and how they do it. How can AI play a role in there?
This is so much fun. I remember, so I do a lot of public speaking, and it's new for me in the last 2 or 3 years, and I still get super nervous before my talks.
So do I.
I remember I was flying to meet Dan McDonald, EO Edmonton, speaking at BIS Safety, and I'd never spoken to a SaaS company before. I'm like, these guys must be brilliant with AI. They're all software developers. What do I know? And I've been studying more the strategy and leadership side. And I was really nervous for that meeting. I remember probably a half an hour chat on the taxi cab ride from the airport to his office before the talk. And I had AI acting as Dan and his team and just started drilling me with questions. And I got to practice all of the questions that it expected would happen in that meeting. And it was right. I got to practice all the questions. So when I showed up, I was ready. And the ones where it did ask a few questions that I was like, I hadn't thought about that one. I'm like, okay, break out a character, help me prepare for that question. What more do I need to know? And then I would have this back and forth conversation. Okay, I'm ready for this question. So I use it to try to, because I speak at different industries. Like I just flew to Montreal to meet with Tiger 21, which is like ultra high net worth people. And I hadn't spoken to that audience before. I'm like, what are they going to be asking?
And what does it do?
And
what do they ask?
Yeah. So, and then I'm just chatting. I'm using advanced voice mode and I'm saying, I want you to act as, and I'm giving it lots of context, stay in character, and hit me hard with questions to make sure that I'm prepared. I remember too, when I just took my entire presentation for Tiger 21 and I uploaded it and I said, I want you to critique this, pretend that you are a Tiger 21 member and let me know your feedback from my slides and my notes. And in advance, it gave incredible feedback. And I went back and reworked my whole presentation. I had things in the wrong order. And so, yeah, I know there's third-party tools out there. I just haven't found the need yet to actually build agents or buy or license a tool that will do this, because I found it works when I just say ChatGPT, give it context. This is what I'm doing. This is who I'm talking to. This is my target audience. Get into this role. I want you to help me role play so that I'm prepared for this pitch. Stay in character, and then I just chat back and forth with it. That's all that I'm doing, both on the proposals, like the written proposals, and then preparing for speaking.
So it's basically a prompt consisting of 4 parts. It's the context, and you give as much context as possible, the role of your potential buyer or your audience. Interview me 1 question at a time, so I can simulate a call.
Yeah, and I can share this afterwards. I like create better than crit. Create, we stands for context, role, examples, ask me questions, T, what's the task, and then E is enhance or an iterative process. I can send that out afterwards, but yeah, the most important is loading up with lots of context. I want you to act as the CEO of this company. And to provide more context, please go out there and research as much as you can about this company and the CEO and come back and tell me everything that you know. Okay, comes back, you're adding more context. Now act in the role as the CEO, and I'm going to practice my pitch, and I want you to be as critical as possible about my pitch, helping me prepare.
Pro tip, use the LinkedIn profile, the person that you're interviewing.
Put it in there. GPT-5 thinking will go out and look at 200 different resources. It will come back on a detailed report of that individual that you're pitching.
So How did it work out for you in Montreal?
It was great. Phenomenal.
Perfect,
Crushed it.
perfect pitch.
Yeah, and quite often I'll be going through something like for public speaking, I'll go in there saying you're missing a hook. You need something in the first 5 minutes that grabs their attention and makes them wait to the end so you can or your pitch isn't cohesive. You started here and you finished here, but it needs to have a story and a wrap up and it gets into the nuance of like for me, like it can get into the nuance of public speaking and not being a professional public speaker, not having gone to any courses. I can tell you that when I've had it act as a professional public speaker that writes scripts for this specific same purpose as me and to be critical, like it teaches me stuff. I'm like, wow, I was thinking about spending 15 grand and going to that EO university on public speaking, but I think
Global Speakers Academy.
yeah, I think this chatbot just solved my need in 5 minutes.
That saves you like $8,000.
Yeah.
Um,
One more thing on that. So you've got the role play, which is really important. And think too, sometimes I used to do sales training, you would have your sales reps, you put them on the spot. Like, let's do some role playing. I'll be the customer, you be the guy pitching and vice versa.
that's what I did.
Really hard, especially for juniors or newbies, right? When you set up the right role-playing environment and they get to get slaughtered behind the scenes while talking to an AI agent, they're not worried. They'll be as vulnerable as possible. You're not there. You're not listening. So I think people show up differently and they'll, like let them practice this stuff in the privacy of their own homes. And you'll just get much better adoption. But then you can also do testing, all right? So you can have a proven framework, and then you can create like a custom agent or even a GPT, go through, we're going to practice your pitching. At the end, you get a score. And so you can grade, what gets measured gets done. You can have little AI agents that will measure the success. So practice in the privacy of your home, but when you're ready, come back, practice here live. We're going to give you a score and we're going to see, actually quantify how my sales team is performing. But you can also then, that's preparing. What about how did they actually perform live in the field? So you can have AIs that listen in real time. I haven't done the real time. I've done the after stuff where you'll analyze the transcription and say, at the end of the meeting, I'm going to give you an 8 out of 10. You did these 3 things good, but here you didn't ask enough questions. You didn't go deeper. And here you forgot to ask for the sale. And here you forgot to mention the core benefit of our product. It can critique you. So you have a proven process, and then you have how the talk actually went, and then you have analysis and coaching that comes after the fact.
I'm sorry.
That's another.
Do you have to tell the person that your salesperson goes out and you're recording this? Is it legally? Do you have to tell someone? How does that work? I've thought about that, but is that?
Well, I do all my sales pitches over Zoom for the most part, and you can always just see the record button, and this meeting is being recorded, so I haven't had that issue. I don't have my pendant on here, but if I was meeting somebody in person, I wear the pendant loud and proud with the white light on, and then I'll make it a conversation topic saying all of this is going to be recorded. Is that okay? I always make sure people know they're being recorded. In Canada, you don't have to, as long as one person knows that the conversation is being recorded. It's fully legal, but that feels ethically unfair. So I would always disclose it.
It's also polite just to mention it.
Yeah.
And
It's a good
that's information.
conversation starter as well.
Yeah. And there's some great hardware solutions to do that. And it's a great talking piece, to be honest.
Yeah. So I use this Limitless, that pendant. It's mine actually. I need to reboot it. I didn't back it up for a while. And
Another question: how have salespeople responded to that, to being recorded, and anybody else in the group? I mean, how's that gone for people?
I mean, every meeting we have is automatically recorded, and they know that. We also, with that, we automatically summarize the recording and post it into the correct Slack channel. Could we keep a log of every single communication with every single lead or existing client so that we can go back into that Slack channel and analyze things? And we don't just include the summary. That's one thing. Talking about like using AI to build a knowledge base on your prospects and clients is very important. But what a lot of people do is they'll get off to a sales call. They'll have some sort of AI transcription tool that will create a summary. And then they might copy and paste that summary into an email or into a Slack channel, and they're done. Future AI is going to want to see the video because they want to know facial expressions, tone of voice. So make sure you're saving those videos, back them up. I pay like $100 a month, and I haven't even run out of my terabytes of storage that come with the Zoom. But then I also include the full transcript and the summary and a link to the video in the correct Slack channel for every conversation that happens with every client or prospect. And it all happens automatically. So I have an agent that runs in the background that connects with Zoom. When the Zoom call is over, it analyzes it, figures out who it's with and what it's about, and then it will do that for me. So that I can have a channel, I can go back and analyze all my sales channels, have an agent that consumes that data and can give me sales advice or sales coaching or look for missed opportunities. That's very important. Now, in terms of efficiency, this is a big unlock, and this one is very easy. I think I'm going to wrap here for Q&A with what I think is the biggest win that most people aren't yet doing. At least I hope you're not yet doing it, because it took me 2 years to get to this point. Most people progress with, okay, I've got transcriptions going. I'm going to test out Otter or Fireflies or one of these annoying like little agents. So there's probably a few in this room. We booted out. I hate those things. And then they might play around with that and try a few different tools. But usually what they end up doing is they will take some sort of transcription. Hopefully you all have transcriptions running in your sales meetings. Then they end up like copying it. Then they'll go over to ChatGPT and then they'll have a conversation and say, hey, can you write me a beautiful email summary about the meeting I just had, including what we talked about and the action items, and, make it sound like me, and then it creates, and then they'll go to ChatGPT and then they'll copy that and they'll paste it into their email, and they might use Gemini to clean it up, and they're doing some more work, and then they'll take the summary transcription, then they'll go to Slack and post it in a Slack channel, tag an account. They're doing all of these manual actions, and they might even go into their CRM and create a follow-up task. You can automate all of that super fast, super easy, super cheap. So I call this transcription to action. So it can analyze the transcription, it can create your Asana tasks, it can create the Salesforce tasks, it can create the email in draft mode so it's waiting for you, and it can post to Slack, all like that without you lifting a finger. It's beautiful. It's one of the highest ROI sales automations that I've seen so far. We're talking like, $1,000 in labor and hundreds of thousands of dollars in time saved. Transcription to action is what I call that one.
Nice. One thing before we go to Q&A, if there are any questions, it's about conversational buying, and the mirror is conversational selling. How should I prepare as a seller that my website or my systems can talk to buying agents? So ChatGPT now has a connection with Shopify. How do I know that the right information is being provided to these buying agents to make a sale?
These are cutting edge questions, Robert. Isn't that news from 4 days ago? Not sure I'm prepared to answer that one.
Or 8 days ago, it's not.
So the good news is if you're on Shopify, it's all happening automatically. They're going to bring millions of Shopify customers online. If you're not on Shopify, there's a certain protocol that you need to make sure your e-commerce store is enabled for. I don't have all the details of it yet. I know it's rolling out right now in the US for select merchants. There are things that you need to watch out for. That's more marketing chat than sales, in my opinion, but that's the art of AEO, or answer engine optimization. One thing to note with the field of AEO, is it's incredibly high overlap. If I draw a Venn diagram here, you've got traditional SEO is one circle, and then you've got AEO is the next circle, and they are almost perfectly overlapping with each other. So this might be the 10% that you need to understand. Basically, what's new with SEO that will include LLMs? 90% of it is already covered, but there are some important things. One thing that I've heard is adding tons of FAQs to your site with long form answers, just getting way more content in text, or there's some specific schema changes that you have to make to the code to help the agents better understand your content. sort of like rich snippets and schemas from the old days of SEO. So there are some small technical things. I have a team that's been working on this and developing these AEO packages for clients. I can tell you this though, I thought it was going to be big, and I'm like, oh, so this is SEO with a couple of bells and whistles. Yeah.
It is.
So
It is.
yeah, so understand it and know what those extra things are, but don't think that you focus on those and you're going to be great if you still haven't looked at the 90%, which is SEO. You need to have great content, fast loading site. You need to have great behavioral signals. But there's one thing we found that can game the AEO system right now. Like in the early days of SEO, we could game Google by loading up keywords, publishing weak content, buying links. Those days are gone with Google, but there's still some fun holes right now with AEO. And one of them is AEO likes to look at third-party references, not so much just what's on your site. So we found that if we write an article and push it out on a PR newswire and we get a whole bunch of those random low-value citations around the web for something, it very quickly changes our rankings within the LLMs. It's something we've been testing. And I don't know how long that window will be open, but you can kind of gamify the chatbot rankings or how you show up in the LLMs. But there's tools, like we use a product called Gumshoe AI. So the old days, you want to track how you're ranking in Google. Now you want to track like how are you showing up for specific terms. So there, I think we pay like, I think I can remind me, I'll try to get you guys a code. I think I have some sort of affiliate discount link or something for Gumshoe AI. But what it does is you can say, these are the 10 most important terms related to my business, and it will ping the top 3 LLMs and see how you show up in the results and who else, like your competitors that are showing up, because they don't usually just give one answer. And then it charts and graphs that over time. So you can see as you're making tweaks to your site, how you're actually showing up in those LLMs.
I got one question here relating back to the step-by-step transcription, step to set up transcription. So what is step-to-step set up transcription to action?
Yeah, so that one, I'll show you. I think I have a
slide for that?
I think I have a slide for that one. It's, I mean, we use make.com for that one. Actually I have to open up a different one, but yeah, so that one is simple. It's a make connecting to the Zoom API, and then make pulls the transcription, then it talks to ChatGPT to get the intelligence. Here, let me just pull up the slide. I gotta find it from this last talk I did. This one. And you can ignore the ROI calculations. That was for one person. You can multiply this across your whole organization without any additional cost. So the ROI is wrong. It's actually way higher ROI. But yeah, it's just Zoom. Ignore Nota. We were using that for a bit. So it's Zoom with Make, ChatGPT, and then Slack. And then now we've extended it onto Asana and Gmail. But yeah, that slide is, I guess, a bit dated. We started there and then we just kept extending it. And you can keep going. Like once we've done the task automation and the email automation and the Slack automation, then I want to move on to connecting it to the proposal automation agent. And then when they sign off, then it passes it along to the agreement automation agent. So you start to like pass things along with humans in the loop along the way. Yes, Quincy, exactly. Reddit and PR dramatically impact AEO. That's a little hack that we're seeing right now. I think that'll be a door that's closed pretty soon, but it works. Seems to be working right now.
Mike, what do I need to do tomorrow? Where do I need to start?
Have a conversation with AI, and first of all, get your entire sales process nicely documented. If you don't already have it documented, you should have an AI agent that is doing your documentation for you and just interviewing you and building beautiful standardized documents. That's one of the steps. But assuming you have beautiful documentation of your entire sales process, I would then have AI act as take the transcript of this call too as context, load this all up into a project, call it your sales advisor project in ChatGPT, and say, your goal is I want you to act as a senior AI sales advisor and to keep looking at my existing processes and come up with recommendations on what I can do to improve, how I can leverage AI to improve my sales process, looking for quick, easy wins. and have a conversation with AI, load it up with context, including this chat, your sales process, and just pick one thing that has the highest ROI, get it done, and move on to the next. There's so many little things. But if I had to pick one thing to start, you want to nail transcription to action, quick, high ROI. If you pick the easy, high ROI things first, what happens is the automation will free up time and money so that you can take that and reinvest into the next automation, into the next. Don't get into fancy things like building agents for like role playing, or you can even have for sales training and sales recruiting automation. There's all sorts of crazy things you can do. You want to look at like, what's the one thing that I can do right now that will have the highest ROI? Get that done, move on to the next, move on to the next. And then you slowly move from crawling, walking, running to flying with AI. And at the end, when it's all done, you're connecting all of these agents together. You're keeping the most valuable humans insulated from all that crap, and they're showing up and just focusing on the human relationship while the agents are doing all the rest.
Getting back to the transcript, so what I will do is for everybody who took the time to spend an hour in this meeting, I will make sure you will get a transcript of this meeting, so you can basically start tomorrow with it. Any questions so far from the audience? So if you want to have a question, unmute yourself and.
Hey, yeah, Alex from Business Rocket. We've been building agents, and we find that we feed the agents a lot of information. They start confusing it and kind of making up information, confusing state fees and things of that nature. When it comes to feeding a lot of content and from different departments, how would you suggest we segment that data on a per agent basis, or in that sense? Does that make sense, my question?
Yeah, so we've been segmenting all of our data based on relationship and client, and doing that in Google Drive so far. So we have agents that will scrape emails, will scrape Slack conversations, that will scrape the Zoom calls, even the pendants, all the conversations. Will analyze who the conversation is with, and first of all, get it into the right folder for the client, and then the right communication type. So, but the technical side of how we're doing that, if you want to connect with me offline, I can ask that question to the development team. But they are doing some things around the way that we're not just taking all of the raw data and bringing it over there. There's a cleanup and labeling process, and removing redundancies and adding timestamps. And sometimes it goes into a vector database, and sometimes we have to add a knowledge graph in certain situations. I mean, there's a bunch of technical stuff if it fails, but I tell you, most of the time, 95% of the time, we don't have to do anything fancy. We just have clean data organized in a folder, and we prompt it properly, and it seems to be working. But there are exceptions if it's highly complex, and that might be some sort of data cleanup process where you scrape the data from these sources, but you don't just drop it into a folder. You have to first scrub it clean and have AI analyze it, remove duplicates. And sometimes even just having a step where it asks clarifying questions. If you don't ask, just like when we're prompting, if you don't have AI know that it's okay to ask questions when it has questions, that can solve things too. But the technical side, I can gladly pass that question on to the development team. Yeah.
Any other question so far?
We got a whole bunch in the side
Yeah.
there.
Okay, talk about data cleanup and best practices.
Data cleanup best practices?
Well,
Hey, Mike, that was my question. And, we've got all the data in Google Drive somewhere, and it's all dropped in there. What's the best practice we can do now to clean up that data so that we can actually use it?
Having agents that are analyzing all of these data streams and automatically putting them in the right folders for you is critical. I don't think you can have it just comb through my emails and look for this, or comb through my drive and look for that. It's got to be very cleanly organized in folders, in my opinion. So one of the quick hacks for most small business, most of us in EO are SMBs, using Slack and Teams as that tool and making your channels granular. So I'm just going to use a client example. So say a client has 5 different services with my agency. Say they're doing Google Ads, SEO, AEO, AI consulting, and web development. And there's a main channel, there's a client-facing channel, then there's a separate channel for every single program or service. When my team is talking about that client for Google Ads, that conversation gets summarized and put into that client Slack channel for Google Ads. When we're talking about web, same sort of thing. When we've got weekly strategy meetings, they're saved and put in the correct places. So AI can analyze this and automatically sort things out for you. When it doesn't know, you need to have a fallback folder that says, I'm not sure where this conversation goes, and then a human will train it and then put it in the right place. But most people don't use Slack and Teams properly. They're piling all of their conversations into these sort of general folders and things are getting lost. We go really granular with that. And then we can use that from Slack and Teams as a training source so we can connect with the APIs, basically export that data off into one of our agents that uses that. Although there are some API limits with how fast you can do that now. So we're running into some new challenges with syncing up with Slack. They're putting data like restrictions on the API usage. But that's one thing is just keeping everything granular, separated, and organized to start with, and then having agents also that when you compile that data, it's looking for crap and filtering that out. Yeah, it's a very similar question to the last one. And there's a lot of additional technical things I know you can do. Like we do have our separate tools. If we want to get more complex, we often will use like a vector data store like Pinecone. And the way that we organize things in there, we can use a knowledge graph that will improve the accuracy of that for some of the more complex situations. But most of my clients, it's just like get your Google Drive folder set up right, get your Slack or Teams structured right, and make sure every single communication that you have is getting picked up by an agent, summarized, and put into the correct place for you. And then you have AI uses that as training data and takes action from there.
And it will be good to seek some help. So you don't have to do it all by yourself. So you don't have to become the AI expert. Make sure you get people in your team who can do it.
Well, there's that MIT study, 95% of projects fail, which is a bunch of BS. I'm posting something again, and it's BS that's reverberating. But the one thing that came out of that I think is true is it was over double success rate when they go to an expert for help. A lot of us are trying to figure these things out on your own. I'm very happy, like 1 hour free consulting for every EO member in the world, no strings attached. Happy to.
You get busy.
I've been doing that for years and happy to help. And we have those communities as well, like the AI plus EO, like post your question there. You've got a bunch of really smart people that can help you with those answers.
Mike, Orlando from Florida. Yeah, Orlando from Florida here. Great conversation. OpenAI a couple of weeks ago announced tool integration. And that they have now agentics, hooks to actually make things work. Do you think that is prudent with the stack shifting so dramatically so soon to make big investments in developing, code into NA10 or Make and things like this? I wonder to what extent those may become obsolete. And maybe I'm suffering from paralysis a little bit, but when the stack shifts so much, how do you know that you're making the right bet?
Amazing question. And this is probably the topic that we have debated the most internally over the last 6 months right there, Orlando. What makes it harder too is the cost of software development just keeps dropping. And most people haven't figured that out yet. Our most senior developer right now, he's about 13x faster than he was 18 months ago, 13 times. He's building, $500,000 applications for $40,000 sort of thing. Most people haven't figured that out yet. Most developers are in the sort of 1 to 4x. So as the cost of software development drops, then we are constantly debating what is the future for Make and N8N, and they keep launching like new great features. We saw Gemini Enterprise come out. I posted that one a few days ago. If you look at now, you can just have conversations with Gemini, and it will automatically build these workflows for you. And you've got Agent Builder with ChatGPT. Long story short, what we're talking about here, if you're not super familiar with, is the way that we automate today just seems to be changing incredibly fast. And how do you know what technology to invest in when 6 months later these things could be obsolete? That's the core question. I think we're in the transition stage right now from these workflow tools and agent builders. We're very, very close to scrapping all that and moving 100% to Cursor AI, Claude 4.5, or Codex, and just not vibe coding, but AI agentically coding everything. We're building enterprise applications. Like, it's no longer vibe coding simple things. Like, we're building millions of lines of code and we're just talking to agents and giving them the right scaffolding. I think that's where this ends up. And right now, that's only accessible to a small group of people that have figured it out. And I think that will soon hit the masses. And I really question the future of N8 and Make.com in a world like that.
Okay, let's, Mike, thanks. Let's wrap it up.